Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Charles Town. Board Chair, November meeting of our board of directors order. Well, thank you for joining us. With a bit go. Let's see if we got that figured out. Okay, got that. Good to see everybody today. A little different. Also note we are at an AV channel this edition. So that level here. So we have an owl, which is our here to have video. What I would ask you to do, watch it online. You need to make sure that you have quality, turn on your computer or laptop so that you get all the audio. We also have folks joining us virtually to make sure you're doing it online. Love saving your email licenses. And so it helps represent all black boxes for your on. And so I probably take a look to make sure your mic is on as well. So folks that are joining virtually are able to hear us with that. We have a few requirements. And so please join me in. Thank you all very much. So for today's meeting, as a reminder, our meeting's audio and video are live streamed on our website. I would like to note, as folks have probably figured out already, that lunch is not here yet. I'm told that it will be here shortly though. So we'll get a sign from the staff that it is here, and then during the meeting, we need to just step away for a moment to grab a plate and come on back. Feel free to do that, but we'll get the signal out once the lunch has actually arrived. It will be coming from the Flavor Hive food truck, which is located in the city of Alexandria. Flavor Hive features the food of social media chef Chili Pepper Cooks. I hope everybody enjoys and has enjoyed about efforts to feature many of our local chefs and restaurants from the region. I would say I think it's been a really great way to have fantastic food from around the region, support a lot of our local businesses and chefs in the process, and really appreciate taking that step to make that happen. And we're going to enjoy that throughout the year. I also want to note, folks are registered for the membership and awards reception, which is scheduled for December 11th at our DC water headquarters. It's going to be from 4 to 6 p.m. on that date. Instead of a lunch, this year we're going to be hosting an afternoon networking reception and celebration for our region's bridge builders. It should be a great time. I think I at least saw an email in my inbox from myself today. So hopefully everyone got that email invite to make sure that you are RSVP'd. Yes, that's right. You received an email from me personally. Or no. Well, I hope so. Thank you. I had so much to do with writing that email. I really appreciate it. So make sure that you get registered though. All right, next we move to agenda item number 3, to our executive director report. Turn it over to the executive director, Mercer, to give us some updates to the executive director report. Mr. Mercer.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. I'm going to start by pointing out that in your packets on page 8 are the preliminary audited financial reports for fiscal year ending June 30th. Audited financial statements will be presented to the board of directors in the January meeting. Quick takeaway overall, company in a fiscally sound position, an operating surplus for the year, 4 designated reserves, which include the operating and capital expenditures, remain 100% funded at $11.5 billion. And then split 5.2 million operating reserve and 6.3 capital reserve. Big thank you to Julie, our CFO, at 13. And again, the audited financial statements will be coming to you at the January meeting. Updates this month kind of show the breadth of what the Council of Governments works on. There are a few of them, but they're all pretty notable, and I want to give a shout out to the staff responsible for each of them. The first is on October 29th, we kicked off our Street Smart campaign with a campaign called Slow Down, Life Ahead. So last year in our region, 117 pedestrian and cyclists were killed. And this is a campaign to try to get folks to slow down, pay attention on our roadways. Coordinated heavily with our public safety and our police, state and local, our first responders, fire and EMS. So much gratitude for everyone participating. That's a pretty daunting number, 117 individuals. That was followed that kickoff. The Transportation Planning Board had a regional roadway safety summit just a couple of days after that. To bring experts in from around the country, talk about what we can do to improve safety and also TBD consider their work plan this year, what they're going to tackle, what they're going to put their money and time behind. So big shout out to COG. That Solar Energy Forum was on October 28th. George Mason University partnership with Mason Energy. The forum provided a foundation for regional partners and leaders to unite and look at ways to accelerate solar energy efforts as we strive to meet the goal of 250,000 solar rooftops by 2030. But remember, we set that, you set that through a resolution here at the council, and our staff is when we pass a resolution, our work is not ended, our work is just begun. So we brought the practitioners in from your county and city governments to do your procurement, to do your facilities, to learn on how to get some of these rooftop solar installations. On October 24th was the Regional Homelessness Forum that was partnered with Kaiser Permanente. It was our fourth annual forum to address housing insecurity and burnout within the workforce that supports the unhoused population across Washington, D.C. and Baltimore regions. A special shout out to our Vice Chair, Rodney Lusk, for providing remarks and moderating the panel there at the forum. October 18th was our farm tour here in the district. We visited 4 sites from DC to learn about urban farms and food innovations. And Farm Vice Chair Zachary Parker gave us the tour. Our chair also attended. Thank you, Chair. We want to recognize John Staley for his service as the farm chair and his many years of commitment to expanding this work. There is a hockey jersey that folks are signing, and somewhere you'll walk by as he has it, it's over there. Sign that for John. He's on the City of Fairfax Council's outgoing, so it's a recognition of his work in elected office and for the farm committee. And on October 17th, with staffs from Alexandria, Frederick County, Charles County, Hyattsville, Montgomery, Fairfax, and Loudoun. We have a new cohort going through the government alliance on race and equity. The topic this year is working to make sure folks have mobility in their jurisdictions. Almost done, but like I said, there's a lot of good stuff this past month. Congress received a few awards, including from the Washington Regional Alcohol Program, their annual awards to recognize the work that we do working to prevent drunk driving in the region. We received a couple of awards from the Transportation and Land Use from the American Planning Association's National Capital Heritage Chapter. Thank you to Mr. Walkinshaw for being there representing awards. And lastly, Hillary Chapman, who's our housing program manager, was honored by the NAACP of their with the Charles P. Monroe Civil Rights Award for COG and her contribution in developing the new regional fair housing plan. And lastly, a plug for our video series. You got an email about this yesterday. It's called Collaboration in Action. It's going to be replacing our podcast series. So every other month, we will have a new video out between 5 and 10 minutes. We're out in the region, introducing folks to people we work with, public sector, nonprofit sector, highlighting the great work that the council does. The first series is all about the anti-consumer cleanup and the work we've done for years. It's pretty good. It's a good series, Mayor Reed. So check it out and please share it on your socials. We're using this as an opportunity to try to amplify our social media accounts to get a few more followers. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mercer. Any questions for Mr. Mercer before we move on? All right, excellent. So get a reminder, make sure there is a chance over to my right. Brings on your way house. I'm going to wait to grab lunch to take seconds on that Jersey. All right, excellent. Then move to agenda item number 4, which are amendments to our agenda. I don't have any amendments to the agenda. And I'll just do a quick scan to make sure no one else has one. Fantastic. So then let me move next to item number 5, which is approval of our minutes for October 9th meeting. Everyone should have that in your meeting. So let me move to approve the minutes from the October 9th board meeting. Is there a second? Sure. Thank you, Mr. Bless. Let me now call for a vote to approve the October 24 minutes. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Aye.
All right. Gotta make sure someone's helping me record our abstentions. Okay, yeah, thank you very much. All right. Yes, the motion passes. Thank you very much. Next, we're going to turn to agenda item number 6, our consent agenda. We have two resolutions that are on our consent agenda today. The first resolution is to receive a grant, procure, and enter into a contract to execute the building collaborative capacity to manage invasive species habitats in Washington, D.C. The second resolution is to procure and enter into a contract to support the regional homeland security and public safety programs. That again, all is in the packet. We move to consent agenda. It is there a second. Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Now, let me see. I call for a vote to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And are there any abstentions? Thank you very much. Yeah. So the motion passes. All right, next we're going to move to agenda item number 7. Coordination and preparations for the 2025 presidential election. No matter how any one of us feels about the outcome of last week's election as a region, there was an election. Okay? As a region, we are committed, of course, to hosting a smooth, a safe transfer, and transition of power. And it is something this region has done time and time again. And after the events 4 years ago on January 6th, that type of preparedness takes on a heightened level of attention to detail. And we've got some excellent guests who are here with us today. I know as elected leaders for the region, you probably like me are fielding lots of questions from constituents, both in previous weeks and after the election, to help make sure that we are prepared, asking for details about that and looking to make sure that the region is prepared. January 20th, of course, is our inauguration, and we've done that time and time again. Those people probably never paid attention to January 6th until 4 years ago. We also treat with a lot of special attention to make sure that it goes smoothly. And it is something if you're like me, you remember exactly where you were, and you remember the impact on officers at the U.S. Capitol Police, the Metropolitan Police Department, and the region. It is one that does require a high level of preparation. So we've got an excellent group that's going to help brief us and be able to share information on this. We're going to be briefed by the United States Secret Service Washington Field Office Special Agent in Charge, William Matt McCool, our United States Capitol Police Chief, Thomas Major, who many folks here work with in other capacities, both in Virginia and Maryland. And we're also going to have District of Columbia Assistant City Administrator Christopher Rodriguez to help walk through the preparations and regional coordination in advance of the 2025 presidential inauguration events that will take place in the District of Columbia. At the end of the briefing, I'll turn and if there are any questions and discussions, we'll make sure we have some time for that. So first, I believe Special Agent McCool will turn it over to you to get us started, and appreciate all of you for being here today.
Good morning. Thank you for having us here to talk about our role in the inauguration. The inauguration is a pre-designated national special security event by the Secretary of Homeland Security and NSSC period will run from January 19th through 2025. The accounting of the certification electoral votes on January 6th was designated NSSC by the Secretary of Homeland Security a few months ago, so planning for that is ongoing as well. The designation of an event as an NSSC allows for significant resources from the federal government, as well as from state and local partners to be utilized in a comprehensive security plan. During a national special security event, the U.S. Secret Service assumes its mandated role as the lead agency for the design and implementation of the Operation Security Plan. The U.S. Secret Service, in coordination with local, state, and federal partners, has been actively planning for several months to ensure a safe and secure event. This takes a whole government approach, and we could not successfully execute an event of this magnitude without the support and expertise of our partners. This is 100% a total team effort. As plans are in process, there are many details I can't share at this time, so you don't know, quite frankly, don't know it yet. But I can say overall, the public can expect to see an inauguration event like the pre-COVID inauguration in 2017 in terms of scope and security impacts. The public can expect to see anti-scale fencing, road closures, vehicle checkpoints, magnetometers, and parking restrictions throughout the Metro DC area in preparation for the event. We are utilizing the full arsenal of our technologies to support the event. And as the event gets closer, there will be coordinated efforts to conduct community outreach and public messaging. This will give citizens and business owners critical information they need to make decisions about transportation, operating hours, staffing, and logistical concerns. Our community outreach during the NATO summit, which was often NSSC, proved to be very beneficial, and therefore we could use a similar approach. Though Washington, D.C. is accustomed to the events of this like this. Our goal is to minimize the amount of disruption to the community as much as possible. As always, the security plan is a delicate balance between ensuring safety of our protectees, the public, and reducing impacts to the community as much as possible. We will continue to work to ensure the best possible outcomes for all involved. With my
Thank you very much. And again, we're going to have all three of our guests give a quick update in terms of discussion and questions. Chief Baker.
Thank you. Ben did a nice job of talking about what an NSSC event is. I just want to, before I get into my remarks, I want to just remind everybody that on January 6, 2021, after that, the Capitol Police got over a dozen after action reports, and it had well over 100 recommendations of things that need to be improved, failures to be addressed. And we have closed every one of those recommendations, and we have increased our staffing. We stood up what I believe is a world-class intelligence bureau, overhauled our operational planning, trained and equipped over 2,200 officers, and done that not to just quote in the last war, but we are now prepared for a wide variety of scenarios that we could see in the next few months. As I don't need to tell folks here that the threat landscape directed at elections, the threat landscape directed at government in general and elected officials requires our continued vigilance. So as Matt told you, we have in DC we have a fair number of NSSC events. The State of the Union, when we have summits involving world leaders, Super Bowl, those kinds of incidents are examples of NSSC events. The Secret Service takes the lead agency in charge of planning, coordination, and security operations. The FBI is in charge of intelligence, counterterrorism, and investigations. FEMA would also in recovery efforts. The Capitol Police certainly has a long history of working with the Secret Service and the FBI very closely. And in fact, the events, the NSSC events that occur on Capitol Hill go seamlessly with our partners. One of the things that we have prepared for is mutual aid. The Capitol Police has commitments, and I know that the Metropolitan Police Department as well is doing the same thing. Capitol Police has commitments from over 20 allied agencies that will be on site. In fact, many, if not most, jurisdictions around this dais will have some of your police officers on Capitol grounds a bit in January. We are just 2 weeks ago. We went to the United States Secret Service training grounds in Beltsville and brought over 1,000 police officers from 16 jurisdictions with us to do civil service unit training, and that was a great success. It was the largest CDU training exercise in the national capital region that has ever occurred. And so we believe that we are prepared and have the staffing to bring in all of the help that we need, to include the National Guard. We've had, the Capitol Police has had a fair number of meetings with the National Guard, and we have talked about any requests for assistance that we anticipate, and work is being done with the National Guard to prepare for both the inauguration and the events on next January 6th. The intelligence, there were a lot of intelligence failures 4 years ago, and to say that those have been resolved and improved, fixed, would be an understatement. The intelligence community in the National Capital Region, I don't believe has ever had better communication in terms of not only collecting and sharing intelligence, but also disseminating intelligence and sharing it with each other. The Capitol Police has a large intelligence bureau that we've stood up since last January 6th. And we have frequent briefings with our law enforcement partners and the intelligence community in the National Capital Region. We have analysts assigned to agencies throughout the National Capital Region. We have our analysts are in FBI's and Secret Service and many other federal law enforcement agencies, operation centers, so that we have seamless sharing of information as we address all of the challenges that each of our agencies is dealing with. In terms of staffing, the Capitol Police has over 2,200 sworn officers that are trained and equipped to deal with a variety of scenarios that we encounter. The physical security at the Capitol has been improved. Our is partnered from Secret Service. We're not going to give away all of our tactics, but certainly we have a stronger perimeter plan in place. We have enhanced camera operations, and as I said, the physical security of the Capitol itself has been improved from what it was 4 years ago. In terms of new strategies, while these are not new in terms of technology, these strategies were not in place 4 years ago. And that is just an operational planning ahead of time, having adequate staffing on Capitol grounds. Then we have new equipment, as I said, new training that our officers have had, and certainly the fact that we're trained with these allied agencies. And again, most, if not, I think most of the jurisdictions around the dais here have participated with training exercises on Capitol grounds in preparation for the events in the next few months. And I'll just finish by saying that this is, while we are certainly focused on next January 6th and the inauguration, the threat landscape all over our country requires this kind of vigilance. And we're dealing with elections, when we're dealing with elected officials, and when we're dealing with the government process. We've seen all over the country people trying disrupting, not only disrupting the government operations, but also targeting elected officials, government officials for violence. And so you've seen law enforcement take a different posture all over the country, and certainly I think in the National Capital Region, and we don't find better partnerships between law enforcement agencies anywhere in the world you find in the National Capital Region. And I appreciate all of the assistance that we've gotten from our partner agencies, and I hope that we can convey the level of preparedness that we have for the upcoming events in the next couple of months and for the next 50 years going forward.
Thank you very much, Chief Major. Next, let me turn to our DC Assistant City Administrator, Dr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Chairman Allen, and I just want to recognize my colleagues who are sitting at the dais here. I work with Matt in my previous role as Director of Homeland Security for the city, and then I witnessed firsthand how the relationship between the U.S. Capitol Police and the Metropolitan Police Department, as well as your regional law enforcement agencies, has improved under Chief Major's leadership. So thank you, Chief, for that. Certainly since the events of January 6th of 2021. For Washington, D.C., as the seat of the federal government, we do this every 4 years. We inaugurate the president. But given the cooperation that it takes to successfully execute that, this is a collective responsibility of our region as well. Just because the district is the closest city, we rely on the support and resources of the region. And in that respect, I know the Metropolitan Police Department has requested mutual aid from your jurisdictions and from jurisdictions across the country. And I want to thank you for offering up those resources. Chief Smith briefed out yesterday that she's at about 3,800 additional law enforcement personnel that we need in the city for the NSSE periods, both for January 6th and for the inaugural period from the 19th to the 21st. She wants to try to get to 4,000 in that sort of goal. So we continue to work towards that goal. There are other non-law enforcement preparations that we make here in the city. Just today, the president-elect is here meeting with the president on the Hill for meetings with his conference. And so we as a city are used to VIP movements and working with our surrounding jurisdictions to ensure movements through the city. And these are things that are going to pop up over the next several months. The city has already taken a lot of effort to prepare. For example, Pennsylvania Avenue has been milled and paved, which is part of our TDOT preparations, Department of Transportation. We are also building the inauguration stands, both for the incoming administration and for it's ongoing. We're working with National Park Service to do that. And there are other health and medical preparations that we make with our fire and EMS in support to law enforcement and to federal partners to ensure that the crowds that come for the inauguration, and we do expect large crowds, as was mentioned, for potentially on the same level of the 2017 inauguration, that they will be able to be here to peacefully celebrate the inauguration of the president and to do so in a healthy and secure way. With regard to our participation in the NSSE process, we are partners with the Secret Service. We are the city agencies are at every planning meeting, every exercise that the federal government runs, and we thank Secret Service for that. Secret Service does send, and as other law enforcement agencies do, send representatives and liaisons to our operations centers to ensure that there is that free flow of information and intelligence sharing. So once again, I just want to recognize my partners, of course, all the jurisdictions across the region. On behalf of the mayor who wanted to be here, but unfortunately was unable to be here, I want to thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks all three of you for the updates today and the partnership. So we're going to turn to some questions and discussions from colleagues, and to our colleagues that are online, if you'll just use your raised hand, see if you've got a question there. I'll kick us off just a little bit. One of the things I know we looked at what took place on January 6th, 2021, the Capitol Police. I know you maybe I can talk about this, and it'll be a chance to help the people know about it. Was that at that time, the U.S. Capitol Police really didn't have equipment that many of the officers needed, and in the after action review, that was one of the things that. Can you share an update just about how you feel your officers are prepared on an equipment standpoint in terms of procure new equipment so that officers and police have?
So we were very fortunate in that everything that was pointed out in the after action reports that needed to be approved, I included those in our budgets, and Congress funded everything. They funded all new civil service unit equipment for every single police officer. And not only did they all get new equipment, but they all got training to use that equipment. So we've trained every police officer with the new equipment, and every officer now has cell phone, ammunition cell phone, and that is so we can give them real-time updates on the latest intelligence. So we have information that we want to pass out, get out to every officer. We can do that just instantly using the phones. So we looked at a lot of the things that for lack of a better term, is the active term, that failed on January 6, 2021, and we've been able to fix those failures with training and with increased staffing.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you. One other question I was asked, and I'll check with colleagues. One of the things that we focus on this regionally, when we have a lot of mutual aid support, when an officer, for example, in Virginia is going to now support the district, or vice versa. From the standpoint of departments that have jurisdictions that have different laws, we're also going to have different training standards. Can you talk to me briefly about, for the mutual aid that comes in, how do you make sure that all those officers who might not be from the jurisdiction in which they are serving at that moment both have the training support they need and have a command structure so that someone who is fully trained on the standards of that jurisdiction are ultimately a decision maker.
So that's one of the reasons that we do the joint training exercises leading up to big events. And these are training exercises. This is where we bring in all the jurisdictions that routinely help us. And so we get to a point where we recognize if there's any conflicts in terms of policies or tactics or those kinds of things. So we can get those resolved in training. We also assign a U.S. Capitol police officer to every jurisdiction that comes in. So Fairfax brings a sensitive contingent. They have usually it's a lieutenant assigned to them. So if there's any questions about what they need to do or how they need to do it, there's somebody right there to work with the leadership of that respective department to make sure that there are no issues like that. And again, and this is a lesson we learned from MPD long ago, and that is that you typically want to use your allied agencies for the kinds of things that won't necessarily put them in harm's way. Capitol Police are going to be on the front lines. There's arrests that need to be made. We will try and make those arrests versus asking another jurisdiction to make the arrest. It doesn't work 100% of the time. It works most of the time. And those are the kinds of things that we put in place that don't have any kind of conflict policy or support or things like that would create problems later on.
Yeah, thank you very much. All right, we turn to my colleagues to see if anybody has any questions. So Mr. Walkinshaw, Stewart, Mr. Middleton.
Right, thank you, Chief Major. Good to see you again. Thank you all for coming. My question is, so the event as such obviously is broader than just the swearing in ceremony that will take place on January 6th. It's really a series of events taking place over several days that are longer. And obviously a lot of the advanced planning for those events is contingent on decisions made by President Trump's team, the inaugural committee, and probably other entities. So I guess my question is, to what extent does your respective planning processes depend on those decisions? And if there are delays in decisions made by any of those entities or changes to plans that they make or, God forbid, haphazard decision-making processes, how could that impact your ability, A, to ensure everyone's safety, and B, ensure people across the region have an accurate understanding of what's going to be taking place?
So we know what the standard events are probably going to be. It's going to be at Lincoln the 19th. It's probably going to be a National Cemetery on the 19th as well. We know what's going to pretty much happen on the 20th during the day. Swearing in. So if you review and stand all that's pretty standard. We don't know about the falls. They go for that night. Typically have the cathedral on the 21st service, and then some other tea at the White House, and then put us some other balls that on the 21st as well. As far as getting the information, the sooner we have the information, the easier it is to plan. So is the Washington Convention Center going to be the location for the fall? I think it might be. But the sooner we know that, the sooner our plan for that particular ball can start. But not to say that we don't start that planning if we think it might be at that location. We have an executive steering committee. We've met a number of times. We have subcommittees that work on these things. And so the planning's been going on for 6 months. We look at the history of what's occurred in the past, and we go off of that. But the sooner we know, the better.
And your engagement with the inaugural committee?
The presidential inaugural committee, we call it. That has not been selected yet. But as soon as that is selected, they come to our meetings, and we're lockstep with them.
I would just add from the city perspective, Matt had mentioned, for example, the convention center. So when it is sort of the city's lead, obviously there's an NSC perimeter and there's security that's involved. But from a city standpoint, we want to make sure that the PIC, Presidential Inaugural Committee, when we do start talking to them, if we're planning, get to all the contacts and all the support that they need for the various walls, the galas, and the events surrounding the inauguration outside of the generally enclosed street events.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. At the risk of any, just get up. Lunch the extra time, hold up lunches here. So if anybody wants to discreetly walk and get your lunch and come back to the table, please do that. Stuart, get your next.
Great, thank you, Chair Allen. Thank you so much for the presentation today, and I think I know the answer to this question, but it's always dangerous to assume something. Since I represent an area that I know Chief Major is very familiar with, we're gonna have a lot of folks who are gonna probably be staying in hotels there, taking metro buses, in and out of DC for events. Can you tell us, and what you can tell us, the coordination with, WMATA and, thinking about people moving in and out of the district?
Yeah, they have been involved in the planning meetings from the start. We know, especially for events on Capitol grounds, events anywhere on the mall, we know which metro stops are going to be the busiest ones. So we'll see a lot of work being done at Union Station and Capitol South, and those metro stations that are the busiest. So there is coordination there. We do also get reports on hotel occupancy, so we get an idea about how things are going to be. So as best we can, and as well as I, that the city driving somewhere is not a good idea. So Metro will be public transportation in general get a lot of use. And so, but we are preparing as best we can for that.
Just that. One of the things from our after action, previous inaugurations is our public outreach. And so now Washington, she's actually standing behind you. Lisa Rodriguez is our public affairs specialist in the Washington office. So like we did for data, she will be coordinating all the messaging that's going to go out to the public, which will be not only a big difference in people knowing, where the checkpoints are located, et cetera. So that'll help.
And just building off what was said previously, in previous NSSEs or big, large special events from the district standpoint, like July 4th, we do use a tool called Nixle, which can put, and we do this through the NSSE process, which can push real-time information to visitors, like stay to the mall, with like go to Smithsonian because this other metro station is full. And so you can sort of manage crowds that way as best you can, but we will inflate them so for issues on.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Fitzwater next, and then Mr. Luskin and Ms. Bailey. Extension, I'll get you a lineup. Ms. Fitzwater.
Thank you, Chair Allen. I'm the Code Planning Executive. I want to just thank all of you for everything that you do around the coordination and path of the region, even just during the election as well. I know when I went to our EOC and talking with our emergency management folks, just really incredible communication all across. So I really appreciate that. Especially with just all the mutual aid agreements and the real need to have this coordination. My question is about potential cybersecurity challenges with all the technology that is going to be employed that's really necessary for all of the communication and the real-time communication we talked about with the cell phones on the officers, and especially with multiple jurisdictions involved and the potential threat of whether it's deliberate misinformation or just attacks on the actual operability of the technology and software itself. What's kind of the back to that, and how are we preparing for those potential challenges for communication during these events?
So we have a communication subcommittee, and those are the exact things that they work on as part of their responsibilities. Secret Service investigates cybercrime, and so we have experts in that field that we work in inauguration. Can't get into the details, but we have people that's their job, different systems to be paying attention to and be considering all threats when it comes to cyber.
Is there anything? Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You started answering the question about public outreach. I just wanted to see if there was any additional information you could share in terms of the timing that we can send out information for the community about what to expect. I think we do want to people driving into the city, moving around the city. I appreciate you deploying technology to do that.
So I can't give you the exact time of when that will go out. But as we get closer and we know what all the things are going to be, we will get that information to you as soon as we can. And what we know is for us to hold that information back. So we'll be communicating with the city, with you all, and get that information to you so we can get it out to the public.
I know that most of the law enforcement agencies, especially state and local, but the Capitol Police as well, has a very large social media. And folks that live in and around Capitol Hill urge everybody to follow us on social media because they get updates about big things, little things, but they're always very timely. So following, your local law enforcement agency on social media has a benefit as well.
Thank you. Mr. Russell, just one other thing to add. I know for many of your jurisdictions, you will activate emergency operations centers. I know they have joint information centers in there. So if there is a desire to embed one of your PIOs in the district's emergency operations center, which I know will have students in our joint information center, but obviously all the PIOs together, so that it's not just before the event, it's also during it, so that we're sending out very consistent messaging, consistent with U.S. Capitol, consistent with the Secret Service, and then you're pushing your residents towards your vetted authoritative sources of information.
Appreciate that suggestion, and that's one I will check. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll turn to Ms. Bailey online.
Did you call my name, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am. Supervisor Bailey, let me turn to you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the opportunity, and to our guests, thank you for being there with us today. My question is, what type of provisions have you made? You may have said this earlier, that I'm having a hard time hearing virtually. Have you made any provisions for ADA? What does that look like in terms of the event, in terms of protection, in terms of provision?
I'm sorry, was the question about mutual aid from other agencies?
No, disability, participants.
ADA.
So I'll just
I
say,
said ADA, I'm sorry.
Secret Service perspective, that's something that we always take into consideration as far as, making sure that people that need extra assistance can get into our sites and not take the stairs, et cetera. So that's definitely something that we look at in all types of sites. Does that answer your question, ma'am?
Yes, I heard bits and pieces of it, but you said that's something that you'll look into. Is that what you said?
But that's something that we consider regularly in all of our protected sites. We always have a plan for that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Dave Snyder, I think I see your hand up online as well. You can hear me?
Sure. Thank you so much for this presentation. And online, it's difficult to hear everything. So, but two quick questions. Is there an opportunity for jurisdictions outside of Washington, D.C. to assist? And the second question is more within D.C. How are we able to protect the homeless people, and what's the sort of plan there? The church that I attend is right downtown in DC and works with the homeless. So do you have any comments on that?
So there are ample opportunities for jurisdictions outside of Washington, D.C. And in fact, there are likely dozens of jurisdictions that are planning to have people assist the Secret Service, assist the Capitol Police, assist MPD in Washington, D.C. for the events in July, especially the inauguration. There historically has been departments, sheriff departments from around the country, really, they come in to assist. In terms of the homeless population. We will always start days, weeks ahead of time to try and make sure folks can get some assistance so that they're not going to be in the middle of a lot of activity that could be dangerous to them or to others. So we, again, this year, we'll certainly be working with social services and our other partner agencies to ensure that we can get folks somewhere safe that during all this activity.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions? I have one or two more before we wrap up. We talked a lot about January 6th, talked a lot about the 19th and the 20th. One ask that you also add, for example, my mind goes back to January 21st, 2017 with Women's March, which said 54 people actually did not have the information that day. I believe I've already seen that permits have started to be pulled for events on the 21st. They historically are large, very peaceful, but powerful folks for this. We're no stranger to hosting big events in the district, but could you speak to that as well? You know, you will collectively have had this massive activation through the 20th, and the events continue for the 21st, 22nd. How are you going to staging that out a little bit?
Well, we are staffing for the long term, and we know that there's already been permits both for demonstrations throughout the month of January. In fact, Inauguration Day has got a fair number of permits already applied for. So we've got contingency to go to a 12-hour shift if we have to, or to keep staffing up. But I think that with the mutual aid that we are bringing in, that we'll be able to sustain the staffing we need with the folks that we have, so that even throughout the entire month, we're not just looking at January 6th. I mean, we're going to be prepared for whatever happens well before that, and so we understand that it's not just those two events, that there's going to be things on either side of it and in the middle of it that we've got to be prepared for.
Yeah, I'll echo that. We're ready. We had 75,000 people. We're constantly communicating with our partners. We do as a partner call for 2 weeks. We do anytime we think a call, if there's something coming up, lockstep. As far as NSSEs go, the Women's March would not be an SSE, but the typical coordination that we do in DC, or seeing everything in the recent future. Partnerships, the chief already mentioned, we've been out in this job almost 25 years. See that the partnerships in DC, for a lot of that, there's so communicating, and we'll be ready for whatever.
And Chairman Allen, just as you know well, for those First Amendment activities in particular that fall outside the NSSC, those usually go to the mayor's special task group, where we do have our representation to make sure that we're planning appropriately for that.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate that. Also be of regional interest, as we will likely see a lot of those events as well. And I appreciate that. I think the other piece I was going to add, we kind of talked about it, but I guess I'll make it a formal ask maybe to Mr. Mercer as well. The sheer amount of this information that can fly around really fast. It's very troubling. As elected leaders, people are looking at us frequently to try to help get the right information out quickly. Certainly following some of the social media feeds that you mentioned are helpful, but it could be a helpful resource again for all of us and help disseminate out to our colleagues. If maybe Mr. Mercer, one of our follow-ups could be making sure we get the official websites, social media handles to make sure that as we disseminate information, we can make a point in the right direction. I know, Dr. Rodriguez, we've got the inauguration.dc.gov. I think that I get that right. That see, kind of weird. So making sure we have the right ways to combat this information, I think would be important. So perhaps that's what we could do about. Okay, last call for any questions. Excellent. Thank you, all three of you, for your presentation and for the coordination. I know it's a very busy a month or two ahead. So thank you all very much. All right, thank you very much. So next, we're going to move to agenda item number 8. So we're going to be talking about the entities and the transit operators that are within Union Station, their responsibilities, and how they work together to the station. For folks that recall, Union Station, the redevelopment of Union Station is one of, I think, one of the most significant transportation projects, frankly, on the East Coast and Atlantic. It is absolutely transformational for this entire region. And here at the governments, we have talked about and prioritized this project several times, but we understand how critical it is to the transit and transportation needs, not just for DC, but the entire region. It is a massive project, and even this morning, as we talked about the regional transportation strategies for Board of Trade, the Greater Washington Partnership, Senator Warner mentioned Union Station again, and many others talked about how critical this project is. So I'm very excited that we've got a briefing today from our Union Station Redevelopment Corporation President CEO Doug Carr, from Amtrak Washington Union Station General Manager Michael Shuno, and Federal City Council Director of Transportation Infrastructure Laura Brooks. What we're going to do is have them do their presentation, and we'll return to questions and discussions after that. So I think, I'm going to turn it over to you first. Is that right?
I think so.
Good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Douglas Card. I'm the president and CEO for the Station Redevelopment Corporation. And I've been leading USRC and our activities for just over the past 2 years. I want to start by thanking the members of the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, the Board of Directors, Chair Allen, and specifically Executive Director Paul Worsford for inviting me to today's meeting. Next slide. For today's agenda, we wanted to share some updates on the many activities happening at Washington Union Station. Briefly, want to discuss the all station lights for the region's transportation network. We also wanted to clarify many misconceptions that station ownership and operations as it relates to district, and also discuss the future plans for the station, which we commonly refer to as the station expansion project, known as SE. Next slide. To begin, I'm saying the station's importance and function in the region. To provide some context, while our name is Union Station, we are certainly much more than a train station. We are a mixed-use, multimodal asset, which serves as the heart of transportation in the DMV. We're the second busiest intercity station in the nation. And at peak levels, we service over 37 million passengers a year. That's considerably more than any of the airports in the region. We have always been the region's central hub since opening in 1900. Next slide. To further the context, we want to highlight a very brief timeline, given that we've been operating for 116 years. So you'll see many missing milestones here. We're in the story of Union Station started in 1903. The President Roosevelt called for the creation of a central station in DC. From that point, the station opened in 1908. In a period of 5 years, just to think about that in some context, one inspiration to think of the scale, the beauty, the grandeur of the station accomplished in 5 years. And then since opening in 1908, the station has really seen a typical rise and fall of many stations throughout the U.S. Stations often had operations in the 40s. They had in the 60s, and slowing back in the 1960s, with train travel on the decline and the station falling into disrepair, was really the first redevelopment attempt the triangle in the 70s. This was the National Visitor Center idea, which was then undertaken by the National Park Service and its oversight. Fortunately, that failed, but more importantly, it set in motion the current ownership and operational structure that we have at the station today. In 1981, Congress passed the Union Station Development Act, which established the United States Department of Transportation as the agency to oversee the station restoration and redevelopment. At this time, the company was transferred from the Department of Interior, National Parks, the DOT as a better fit for the mission of the law. Then, in 1983, consistent with the congressional mandate from Union Station Development Corporation was founded to represent federal ownership and be the asset manager for the entire complex. Next slide. Considering that we were at an event just a couple hours earlier today, hosted by members in partnership with the Board of Trade, where this very question was asked. We wanted to perhaps demystify a simple, often misunderstood question. Who owns Union Station? That was the question I heard on today, and the answer is the federal government. We are the only federally owned station in the country, and DOT has delegated that oversight to the FRA, which has further delegated that oversight to my organization, the United States, the Station Redevelopment Corporation. Either redevelopment act 1981 was also defined by the USRC. A little bit about our organization. We are a DC nonprofit and a mission-focused entity, which represents the ownership of the station on behalf of the DOT and the FRA. And we are responsible for the overall asset management of the station, really by advancing three main objectives. Number one, to preserve and restore the historical architectural significance of the building. Number two, to maintain long-term function as a multimodal mixed-use transportation center. And number three, enhance the retail amenities of the station, really the administration of our commercial interest. In essence, I need to boil those down in simpler terms. USRC is there to represent the best interest of the station, both now and into the future. That's it. One more, please. The operational structure relationship is illustrated on this slide. What this shows in essence is a novel structure instead. USRC is as the master lessor of the entire complex, has two major assets which would represent and administer. The first on the left-hand side is a 10-tier structure of subleases. The first tier, in commercial leasehold interest, this is the mixed-use element of the facility, commercial office uses, which is a critical part of the act, which calls for the maximizing of revenue within the commercial leasehold to reduce the amount of federal investment that is required to maintain the facility. The second tier is the Amtrak station sublease area, otherwise known as the player complex. And you can see it on the right lower portion of this slide. The upper portion, USRC also owns and operates the garage and the bus terminal. These are the revenue sources for USRC and also highlights our role environments for long-term function as a multimodal center. The commercial leasehold interest has been subject of recent comments of Amtrak, and the leasehold interest was recently transferred for Amtrak this summer, and that is reflected in the left opposite side. And we can track share over here in front of me. So I believe that I'll forget to put my analysis. Next slide. So the point on that functionality, as I mentioned earlier, we're more of a train station. We're part of transportation. Since the station opened, there are various transportation modes that are continuously operated. Carriages, cars, taxis, buses, trains, subways, and streetcars. We are currently the host of operators and modes of travel. We are the busiest transportation center, the largest interstate bus operation station in the region. We are also continually serve as a transit hub and interline destinations for greater railroads, large BRE. In addition to being Metropolitan station in their system and various other city disciplines, we're also Amtrak's second busiest interstate rail station in the country. Together, computer usage represent approximately 80% of our traffic. And Amtrak's second busiest interstate station crossing emergency drivers and passengers, and more importantly, anchors in the Northeast corridor. USRC's mission then includes responsibility for providing for all operators, transit, retail, commercial, etc. Can succeed. Next slide. Now we cover history and the operational structure. What does the future hold for the station? The station is SNA, which was just recently achieved major milestone this past March of the completion of the analysis and decision. Is the future of the station? The future mission objectives fundamentally aims to expand and modernize the station, the country's second busiest brand, by thousands of commuters each week across the Washington, Maryland, change. The estimate will also help accommodate significant ridership growth across Amtrak, MORC, VRE, and interstate buses. It will also transform Amtrak's vision of a larger rail network, expanding capacity and connecting the Northeast corridor and Southeast corridor. Without these improvements, Union Station will remain the region's biggest trouble and will constrain on recent significant regional investment and interjurisdictional infrastructure investments, and I believe we'll also touch on in our presentation. Now, our mission also includes ensuring the station's preservation. Very much north of the town is the restoration of the existing head house and the integration of the beautiful existing facility of the modernization of that and expand the additional capacity. In the end, it will improve capacity, reliability, accessibility, safety and efficiency, and provide reliable options that connect people to the region. This is truly a generational opportunity and investment for the region. Next slide. To provide some further inspiration, this is a concept rendering of the proposed train hall. Together, these provide opportunities to improve the customer experience, improve the offer additional options and frequency for mass transit, improve the quality of life for commuters in the region, and in doing so, it's our hope that we help promote increased utilization of mass transportation and other benefits which occur as a result, such as environmental policy goals and objectives. This image in itself in a challenge was also not finished. This has been done. We've seen it firsthand, and work is underway to deliver these objectives. Next slide. I'll briefly on the status of the SE. Since we last addressed this board here, significant momentum on the SE has happened, including key milestones. One of them includes the release of the final environmental impact statement, FEIS, and record decision in March of 2024 this year, which included the designation of USRC role as the project sponsor. With the federal government's necessary approval of the environmental review, this enables USRC to begin the next step of securing funding to advance initial work, Amtrak, MARC, VRE, and others. Another milestone was something we are very grateful for the FRA's decision to move the project forward, and also to Mayor Bowser's administration, the DC Council, and Infrastructure DC for completing the governance study, which was also undertaken for. The findings of the governance study, which were taken to assess how to complete the modernization and transformation of the station, really put additional momentum in just advancement. Now, it's to transform the project from concept to reality. That's something that IT is working on developing a plan for, and I take that forward to our partners. And I will ensure that the project stays commercially viable, that it's a manageable budget, manageable schedule, something that delivers value to passengers and visitors over time. And that's some of the work that IT is already. This timeline really shows where we stand, the decision, we are in yellow. USRC is a project sponsor, in close collaboration with the FRA, Amtrak, and other partners. Next slide. the governance study focused on governance and more successful models of delivering significant projects such as this. The study found that all value of a project sponsor, and particularly the center sponsor, to serve as a mission-driven entity, system for coordination, collaboration, and represent encompass various interests and operators. A key role of a central sponsor is getting a neutral entity with decision-making authority to advance and drive projects. It involves accountability to the end users, the ability to operate with speed and flexibility, and scale. Another key role of central sponsor is the purpose-driven mission. Someone who does not have necessarily vested interest in any specific outcome other than the project's own and facilitating the advancement of things. Another key aspect of a central sponsor is an honest broker, a neutral entity, someone who can balance the equities of the various operators in a mixed-use multimodal environment. Particularly important in situations where there is a mix of commuter, intercity, local, and commercial users. This allows every party to pursue their own individual interests while being done so in a way that's equitable. So we really appreciate the investments from the city and the Federal City Council, the completion of the government study. It also outlined a couple of key recommendations in the study, including the need to secure funding for development activities, the need for ongoing collaboration with project vendors to apply for federal grant opportunities. And there should be changes to legislative law, including the city infrastructure law, and as the procedures for authorization to be eligible to get the project application for federal grants. Once the development stage activities are complete, site development, the target next major milestone of its 30% engineering design activities. And lastly, in order to advance meaningful design development activities, the project will also create a need for regional support for members across this group. Strongly also need political support from industry, and funding support. USRC is actively working with our regional partners on number one, securing funding partnerships, but number two, representation and participation of the SCP project as a whole. Near-term funding, for example, to fund design and engineering activities will allow us to accelerate multiple projects. USRC has been engaging our partners along with the regional political offices to address these needs, going back to really key USRC firms. The need to be empowered with the authority to advance the project, but that also has to be aware of the ability to from these major activities. The good news today is that we're USRC is applying for the $30 million FSP Northeast Corridor grant in partnership with Amtrak. It is notable that this also includes state and district community levels from across the region, BC, Maryland, and Virginia. And we're very much appreciative of that support. This reflects the importance of Union Station as a regional transportation hub, but also the economic development potential that the station supports and can represent as a significant infrastructure investment in the region. Lastly, to focus on funding opportunities, USRC continues to pursue a legislative agenda which provides access to additional funding sources, which is absolutely critical to serve in our capacity as a central sponsor. What is important to note as I close, as much as I focus on the station's future, we are not waiting for the completion of these critical steps to make near-term improvements. So the station's day-to-day operations alongside capital investments in the buildings, facilities, and structure. We are focused on achieving both. With that, we will take any questions after the full members present. And otherwise, I will put it over to my channel for intro, where we'll keep words and operating station and the those improvements in the near term and long term for the future of the station. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Carr. All right, Mr. Chanel.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Doug, for the introduction.
Could you touch the under your mic so it turns green? There you go.
There we go. Thank you very much, Doug. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the invitation to address this group of council governments. This being a very fun, informative discussion, I hope. And here on behalf of Amtrak, having joined Amtrak on July 17th, General Manager of Washington Union Station. I joined Amtrak after a 40-year career in real estate. First 18, almost 20 years on Wall Street with Goldman Sachs and Merrill Lynch, having run private REITs for both of those companies, covering owned office buildings, New York, London, Tokyo, Hong Kong, Singapore, a number of buildings around the world, doing both development work, leasing, management, and operations of full service real estate business. The day of 9/11 happened. I was the president of the real estate investment trust with Merrill that owned the office building right next to the World Trade Center. We had well over $1 billion worth of damage, vacated 20,000 people in 3 hours to get them away from us. Afterwards, the board said, Mike, rebuild, get it done as soon as we can. October 15th, the following year, 6,000 people back into the building across the street from the World Trade Center. So we're able to do that with collaboration with local government, with private contractors, architects, engineers, as well as unions and trades. We really work together to get that to work. With that success, the Port Authority asked me to come and advise them on redeveloping the World Trade Center. With that, I began my work in public-private partnerships, developing the redevelopment plan and the operating plan, as well as the financial plan for rebuilding the World Trade Center. As you go there today, you can see one World Trade, 4 World Trade, 3 World Trade, Oculus with the retail, all of that came about with a drawn redevelopment plan that helped craft with a large number of team members, one of them sitting to my right, who have been part of a very large 65-person team that built that redevelopment plan. They brought stuff there over that time. And from that work, I got to know a lot of folks in public service across the Northeast region, a number of the board members of Amtrak itself. So about a year ago, as this process happened, in COVID and the demise of the operating Washington Union Station, a number of individuals, both public and private world, began asking questions. How do you think you run this show? And clearly during the time of COVID and in the financial crisis, it was a tough ship to ride. Eventually, Amtrak asked me to come on board and act as general manager trying to break the ship. We have a lot of work to do, but a lot of good people here to work with to make this happen. To be clear, Amtrak is possessor in interest in the station now. So we operate, maintain, and perform all day-to-day operations of the facility. That does not mean that we have to be control. There's still a court case. The previous private investor still has interest in the facility. So all of that is finally worked out. We're hoping we'll have over the next 6 to 9 months. We're in a stewardship role, bringing the station back to good operations, trying to stabilize the retail operations and establish a strong base of business there, as well as begin planning implementation to address some of the transportation increases that are expected with the improvements in the northeast corridor and investments in regional rail. Clearly, the goal is to make sure that the transportation system for the region works. That's the job. Second, make it safe. We've already begun implementing safety and security measures, and it's interesting to hear previous talk about plans. January 6th, the upcoming Wednesday event, as well as the inauguration. About
3 hours ago with the Amtrak police. We're deep in meetings, planning, staffing, desk view management, information outreach. So I can tell you for certain across the board, those types of planning activities are already well in place in advance of events that will happen in January. It's learned a lot of lessons over time. So now in November, 2 months ahead, and cross coordination planning across a number of different security and operations. I'd like to address where the vision is for Washington Union Station itself. Clearly, task number one is to make the station ready for the large increase in passenger traffic on the perspective, both in the regional plan, Mark VRB, but also the Northeast Border Line, with the massive investment that Amtrak putting in bridges, tunnels, gateway program in New York, as well as expanding the fleet. The new fleet coming in will increase the number of passengers on each train from about 3 passengers to 500. So if you think about that times the number of trains entering the station every day, but so that's casting right for all of those testimonies. Task number two is trying to improve the experience, and I think we've all seen the impact of it as you go to the station today, you can tell. Retail business, the retail world has changed. It's just a fact of commercial real estate business. Amazon, online business, people want different, which is going to be different service levels. One of the first things I did when taking over was change the marketing program for the retail business. Switching from, call it a national chain approach to a regional approach. Looking at the best businesses that are here in the region, and trying to attract the companies and businesses that live and prosper in this region, that names people recognize, all the different histories. We have enough national retailers in the station now. We want to see more representation of local business. So actively out negotiating with a number of your local businesses, and I expect to be able to announce in the next 4 to 6 months, 5 to 8 businesses coming local to the station, which will really improve customer experience there. Got a long road ahead of us. And actually, the larger plans won't be able to be implemented until we're done with the court case with Ashkenazi in the next one, which, like I said, they're expecting that will happen roughly mid-year going in the fall of next year. So a lot of work planning, being able to bring partnership with the station expansion plan as well as the repositioning of the Washington station in place. That provides a reasonable overview of sites, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, take them for this committee.
Thank you so much. And it's a little to go to you next, and we'll turn to some question discussion.
Excellent. Good afternoon. Can you all hear me? Great. And Ms. Randall, I see you here, so I'm going to take a page from your book. We presented at a conference recently, and you yielded most of your time back. So I'm going to definitely take a page from that. But I want to thank Chairman Allen, Chairman Mickelson stepped away, Councilmember Nadeau. This is certainly, I'd say, the biggest, most transformative project for the District of Columbia, and the opportunity to speak with you all here today about why this is also, certainly in the Federal City Council's belief, the biggest opportunity for our region left in the pipeline is an honor. So with that, I'll go briefly through these slides. Doug covered most of this, but again, the prompt is understanding the entities and then what's ahead. So it was a P3 to begin with. That's sort of a fun fact. It was the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. 202, actually part of the Metropolitan Commission. And then, like Doug said, we did it in 5 years. We actually took the rail off of the National Mall underneath the US Capitol and created Ivy City Rail Yard and the whole storage facility for what is now all of the operations that lead up to the Northeast Corridor. So with that, I'll go to the next slide. I think it's important to talked a lot about what's happening at the historic station complex today, and what I think matters most to all of you as our regional partners who are going to get this project done is the rail infrastructure. So Doug mentioned this, but currently Union Station is the biggest choke point and unfunded hole in what is 36 billion of infrastructure from Richmond to New York City to really enhance what is century-old infrastructure. So you get there, you've heard about the new Acela rail line fully come online. That's a Union Station problem, right? We have electricity. So you literally go back in time when you come from Alexandria and are trying to then go north anywhere in the region, whether you're going to New Carrollton or you're going to New York, you have to change the engine from a diesel engine to an electric engine. So next slide. Doug went through this all really well. How did we get here with USRC? We saved Union Station in the 80s. That's where federal city council played a part. And then moving forward today, we now have the largest inner city facility. Next slide. And it serves a ton of people. Next slide. I think, Doug, you already had this broken up into 2 slides. Sorry, previous, but you also have this slide, Doug, so next slide. But I do think the governance structure is really important because when we saved this in the 80s, the Smithsonian didn't want the building. I was really thinking of this building as an asset, let alone transportation asset. So to look at where we are today is critical. And trying to refocus people on rail, another unique element is not only Station, the only federally owned rail station in America, the District of Columbia doesn't have a rail. And all of our rail infrastructure is owned either by Amtrak or CSX. And thank you, Virginia, all of our Virginia partners. Next slide. For the investments in some of our infrastructure in DC. So either there has to be a land transfer, which is what occurred in the case of Long Bridge, or investment in the case of Fort Track, L'Enfant PRE, in infrastructure within our borders. So I again want to shout out to our regional partners. You all, your dollars are committed, and the federal government's dollars are committed to our region, but there are still some of these really big and also directly dependent projects with Union Station and that 53-acre overhaul. So next slide, what's ahead? I think this is where we're thrilled to see kind of the impact and scale of this project and to have these 2 builders to my right. It's remarkable because I think it's going to require all of you at the table and, you know, a ton of private sector best practices to really get this done. That said, on the other side of that, we have run-through service and then massive capacity enhancements. So the vision of New Carrollton to Crystal City, Fredericksburg to DC, we have a very constrained network right now, and the capacity enhancements that will be delivered with the Union Station expansion project are. So next slide, I think we can run through. This is also part of the entity, just understanding again complex ownership. Because the Washington Terminal Company is owned by Amtrak, that's all that rail infrastructure. There is also 53 acres of that is actually also owned by DOT and then leased by. So what you're seeing here is actually the federal government owns both the historic station complex and the rail infrastructure. So that's just another wonky point. And then I think we can end with where we're going and the video on the next slide. Oh, and again, Chairman Middleton, you were out, but want to thank the district, Councilmember Allen, Councilmember Nadeau. The district's H Street Bridge is a $325 million local investment. We have had it on our books for a decade. And it is local dollars that go to a project that directly enables, if you see literally right here, this garage will be taken down, and that is sort of what enables the track reconfiguration and capacity enhancements. So though the district cannot provide a local match to an asset it does not own, both the district and then the region with Maryland and Virginia's investments are being committed. Next slide. This underscores that point. Again, 36 billion has been committed from Richmond to New York City. Next slide. and then let's do the Union Station. We're not gonna see that. I also think time is our biggest opportunity cost here. So every year we don't do the Union Station, it costs our region more money. And the impact of getting this underway is immense and slight. So when we look to the future, also tie this to the district, this is something Chairman Allen talks a lot about in this context, but also within his council context, as the Chairman Mink said, but the recovery of the federal, workforce and the transformation of downtown DC is also very tied to this location in the city. This is a catalytic investment that can reopen the city and bring in the urban fabric. So with that, there's a video that you all can watch on the next slide, I believe. And with that, I think that sort of takes you into the future, but I'll thank you.
Well, thank all three of you. I really appreciate you walking us through that. It is awesome. It is complex. It is so much, and we've been at this for a number of years. And I know COG has been supportive of this project. And again, it was a helpful way to kind of spend a year or so to get a quick update on where it stands and what more we could be doing. And then we'll open up to questions and discussion. I'll kick off one. No reason not to throw you the audience to start that. Do you want to watch the video right now? All right. So, can we play the video so that we'll be happy?
Sorry.
The next thing you're going to tell me is they can play it.
Yeah. I should have just watched the video field with all of my time. Next time.
Mr. Chairman, I think that Ms. Nolan Brooks is going to personally get you the link. So I was going to ask, we've got a projected 250% increase in ridership in the area, 150% increase on the market, 100% increase on Amtrak. We've got hundreds of millions, billions that Virginia and Maryland district are putting into associated areas around this project. To be fair, not necessarily matching, but clearly those investments don't actually yield everything we want out of them. So I'm going to move forward. And in your last slide around a return to work, it's very difficult to happen without a fully functioning station and expanding station. There's a lot of anxiety around what's going to happen on January 20th at the I think one of the places where people are concerned is around, will we see the same level of commitment to transit and to rail that we've seen in the previous administrations? But I wanted to ask if your thoughts or reflections thus far, what you've seen in terms of funds that are already obligated, what you've seen in terms of what that transition could look like. But also, if one of the other goals of the incoming administration is working to get people in the office in the first quarter. Is there a nexus there to kind of talk about why this project is so important? Would love to get your thoughts on that. I realize I'm asking you kind of for this one first, but
Thank you for the question. Let me start by saying I think you've been in DC now for a couple of years. I appreciate the heightened awareness of regional fiscal politics. For me, I get an opportunity to keep it simple because the station is a political transportation asset. I think that's how we view it. I think you're referencing is opportunities, challenges, also the minuses that we clearly think about before the election, during the election, and afterwards. And for us, it really comes down to the same philosophy that we have. If we're going to have to stretch and deploy every dollar that we are able to get in the most efficient ways, that mission does not change. I think we're prepared to understand what reduced funding opportunities look like in the future. But again, we're on the budget phase and the future of the project phase. We don't necessarily position for the $1 billion house a year or 2 years from now. We have to do the work to put us in a position to actually do that. So that's the work that we want to get underway. Multiple projects, ones that are more mature, would represent those that you saw on screen there. Things that have gone through design and engineering, they've gone out for bid, schedule estimates, pricing estimates. As much as I'd like to say that's where we are, we're at a 10% housing level. So we have a lot of work. I want to say I'm the optimist. It means we got 90% of the way to go and make really good decisions as we go through there to make sure that the project is commercially viable and we can have the partners. Then we have a plan where once we are into construction, we are stretching it down and we're more efficient. So that's the part. This is only a part for, I would say, but we are a political asset. We are a transportation infrastructure, shouldn't matter where it comes from, but from our perspective, it's efficient and over the dollars that we do get, it's going to be most of them.
Thank you. It's older, everyone will show up and check attention. So I will say, from the district standpoint with the Street Bridge construction, I know a lot of work took place with Amtrak, with TDOT. We're on the cusp of that project is now underway right now. And obviously, to your point around designs, a lot of work to make sure we know exactly where each footing and pylon is going to go to make that happen, and make sure we that expanded rail capacity is going to be a huge project and take districts to this. My regional colleagues are very projects too. Mr. Lusky.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Personally really excited about the economic development opportunity here, but I've heard that be expressed earlier on. Is there any thought, can you share with us what you envision, maybe in terms of the airlines? What are the different types of uses? Do you have any ideas on the square footage? And then for me, just thinking about capital investment that would be associated.
Yeah, great question and a key part of the rationale behind the overdevelopment that we're proposing. First, the capacity issue. I believe that's correct. The capacity across the site and all the areas is about 3 million square feet, which is a significant capacity, particularly in Washington. In terms of the product mix, is what we would describe that. The product mix right now, we're pursuing design and engineering and shipping. We are currently, even just earlier this week, what we call a constructability effort, where we are engaging builders, contractors, rail, structural engineers, these are the items that are really in terms of our cost and budget. The reason why I mention that is that's an important opportunity for us to ask exactly the question you did. What is this? That is the our structure, foundations, engineering. And the short answer now is airlines partner, which there are additional airlines which need to be very transacted. And then already shown the spaghetti, which have all these different colors. We have about 10 maybe a dozen real estate transactions that need to occur, be culminated. Average, we're going to pose a question then, I'm going to speak for behalf of average, but they've indicated to us flexibility is key at this point. Previously, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, you would have full office, mixed use, I do have a notion of there'll be aspects of residential, commercial office, hotel, cultural uses. Exactly what the ratio balance of that is, today is hard to tell. And lastly, I'd sum that up by saying the way that I often think about this is we are not building for today's market. That's kind of the value and the challenge that we have. We're building for the market in 10 years from now. Everybody knows what that looks like. I'll give you my detail. Please contact me. We're building for some of the features of flexibility and carrying forward the design that allows us to proceed, but also allows us to flexibly target what the highest and best uses are at that time.
If I could also add to that, a few years back, I was engaged by the New York Metropolitan Transportation Authority in the state of New York, put together the Hudson Yards transaction. And that transaction stood on its own. So that type of deal that Doug's describing now, that everybody buildings on top of that. Mayor Bloomberg and his administration had Dr. Alvin Seth-Pittsby. We talked about it. We never thought we would see the impact to the adjacent communities and housing that rippled out from that core investment in one yard. And all of our economic impact studies, all of our housing studies, none of them ever saw exactly how far that ripple's going to go. I think that's one to keep in mind as a council, that you can hire every consultant you want to do these economic impact studies and market studies. But the way these projects that are transformative ripple across the adjacent neighborhoods beyond, and with TOD projects and connectivity, being able to get to work, to get home from work, is much broader than any academician or consultant's going to put down in terms of the impact of these broad investments. So, for 40 years of seeing it, the ripples go abroad, these types of investments.
I agree with that. Sort of related to that. Based on the experience both of you had in New York, how important is these projects happen within a year or two? You were talking decades long time frames oftentimes. But having regional work, I think, is fairly crucial. You talk about how you've seen that in your previous experiences with other colleagues, but how important a group like COG is to stay engaged on this, to hear from you and make sure that we're showing our support along the way.
I'll give you, I think, firsthand experience and perspective. Each of these projects needs a champion, and the champion helps amplify the benefits, the mission, the vision. And when I say champion, perhaps here, a champion does not have to be a singular figure, recognizing the intricate relationship between Virginia and DC here. New York, I was formerly the executive director and president of the Trail Development. We have a very well-known champion in the government of the state of New York that was really able to drive ours and empower the organization to deliver the project. And it kept the mission and the job very, very simple. And that's what I alluded to, kind of the role of the central sponsor is somebody that does not have a specific long-term vested interest other than the interest of delivering a project. So in many aspects, and Mike and I, we love to work ourselves out of the job. That's what we're here to do. But to your point, Chairman Allen, political support, I think, equates to funding, and equates to the ability to deliver these. And every project of this needs a champion. The champion does not need to be a single individual, and that's a lot of the work that we're doing. So and also, some of the value that we see in terms of engaging this audience to help us build that support.
Fantastic, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Fire.
Just double down on those comments. But this agenda item was put on the agenda for this month. It was done so because, with the recent actions in court cases and what Amtrak role it is and your development corporation's role is, one of the things that I'm guilty of, I think most of probably are, is there's an assumption that more people are paying attention to what they're doing in their job than they really are. And a lot of folks and members and staff say, what does this all mean? How do those fit in? We might assume folks know, but they really don't. That's a region. And as we talk about all of these projects, the CSX rail work at Long Bridge, being able to double stack the trains and get the ERA park run throughs and our DFE moves down a transit system, all of the epicenter, the key part of this station, every of COG benefits that you can get this vision for the station to come together. So the challenge of it has to have we will make sure that COG weighs in and it's helpful to this effort. But to the average citizen of this region, I don't think there's an appreciation for how Union Station ties all these efforts together and why it's important for the Commonwealth of the state of Maryland to consider making investment in a station that sits in the District of Columbia, why that makes sense. And we need to lay the groundwork for that to make sense when those assets come. If it's next year or a couple of years, the groundwork's been laid. If that makes sense, we're here, want to continue to be a resource, and the station is right there. We're staying put here, we're renegotiating our lease in this building. We're going to be good neighbors.
But we need to be better partners to you all, make the case in this whole region as to why the station is important and how it fits into all these other investments that have been made. But I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that space.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like you almost knew exactly where I was about to go with this. This is a project that is not, yeah, I'm talking this frequently. This is, I represent Ward 6, which is where you're sitting right now, where your station sits. I've been a long champion of this project. This is not a Ward 6 project. I represent council for DC. This is not even a DC project. This is truly a regional project. I'm really grateful that as an entity, this group has consistently brought forward in support of this project, whether it was COG's letters that that grant that Mr. Carr talked about. We talked about this with our regional colleague. I think the ribbon cutting on a project like this, we may not actually be there. It may outlast all of us or current duties. I hope it, right? I want it to. But my point is, this is a project that will take a long time to see fully realized, but I think COG's with consistent voice and support. And so one of the things I'd like to do is recognizing, we talked about the election earlier. We do have our regional congressional delegation, we have some new members that will be coming on board serving both in Maryland and Virginia. And so I think it might be a good idea if COG essentially sends a letter to our congressional delegation, incoming congressional delegation, reiterating our support. Largely echo probably the letter that we sent in support of the grant that was made forward, but I think it could make sure both to remind those members that have already been serving for our region, but also the new members who are taking on the roles, management health premises, and how it's going to continue to support that. So understand we can work with the COG staff and put a letter like that together, but I'd like to make a motion that COG send the letters to our incoming congressional delegation in support of this project and echo many of the letters of support that we sent over the years. Thank you very much. I'm going to recommend the vice chair for the second. But let the record know, Mr. Wilson. Any discussion on that? Right, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Aye.
Okay, Supervisor Bailey. All right, the ayes had it. So I would get to work with Mr. Mercer and the COG staff to make sure we get a letter out to our regional delegation. And I believe we are also, Mr. Mercer, we are planning to reschedule what was going to take place in the fall, but our regional congressional delegation reception that we've had in the past, we're going to do that sometime in the early spring, is that right? Which will also allow the new members of our regional delegation to be in place. So we'll get to them to do that. All right, so nothing any further discussion or questions. Thank you all very much. We appreciate it. Thanks for all our work on this.
And thank you for that offer. Very much appreciate your support. And I was very interested in that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you all. All right, that is going to take us to getting close to the end of our meeting, which we may have inherited about 5 or 10 extra minutes. Let me turn to agenda item number 9, other business. I will recognize Libby Gardy.
So very much, Mr. Chair, and I will be quick. This is my last meeting actually in this room, and I wanted to use this as an opportunity to highlight for the region a really serious issue with all our social media accounts that I've really just kind of started to understand. So I think like probably everybody, we use X, we use Instagram, we use Facebook, and they all started out as really great platforms that people loved and they worked well and they attracted a whole lot of users. And then they had the process started, which is called enshittification. This is actually a technological term, enshittification. More likely, maybe it's called platform decay. So once they've got you with this really good service, which is paid for by venture capitalists, there's a lot of billionaires that put this money into this, and they've got you hooked. You got lots of followers. It's working really well, and then they start to throw in algorithms to increase the clicks for the ads they're putting in to make money. And over time, these platforms degrade and degrade pretty badly. We do not have control. If you've got an X or Instagram or Facebook, you do not have control over your followers or your account. At any time, you could be shut down and you can no longer contact the people who are following you. So what happens is they offer this high quality online service, you attract users, it's all great, they degrade it, and then you are caught. Because you cannot afford politically, personally, or economically to opt out. you're done. They've got you. And that is a huge concern. I also found that not only can they shut you out, so perhaps we talked about misinformation, perhaps something's going on where we really need to contact our people and get the information out. We push it out and suddenly find we're locked down in our homes. And we can't push it out because it's inconvenient for people to control to make sure we cannot. The other thing that I understand could happen is that they could actually post for us. So people could get what looks like a post from Arlington County that's been taken over by the billionaires that own these companies, and they post for us. This is a real vulnerability and a danger that we've got to be aware of. I've put on your everybody's desk a little flyers to help me to start out this conversation. A company called Mastodon. It is, as I understand it, the only firm that does a social media account that is not funded by billionaires. So that it actually lets you control your followers. So Mastodon cannot shut you out, unlike Instagram, Facebook, X. And if we don't find a way to switch to a platform like this or something where we have control, we could find ourselves the next election, which perhaps will go a little more our way, and suddenly there really is a lot of chaos, unable to reach our people because the people on the other side control our social media. So I will stop there. Just want to kind of raise the alarm. I'm happy to talk about this with anybody afterwards or take a few questions out if anybody wants to. But I think this is huge and we need to be preparing now because it's over time we build up the followers. And there are a lot of people shifting to other platforms. Blue Sky is one of them. It's really, really good and working really well. It's also funded by venture capitalists. That's why they can make it work so well because they've got boatloads of money. And those venture capitalists are going to want their money. That's all I think. Thank you. I mean, that's my life farewell speech.
We appreciate that. But no, I expect to see you on December 11th.
Yes, I will be.
4 to 6 p.m. And so I want to remind everybody that, again, our COG annual membership meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, December 11th from 4 to 6 p.m. Make sure that you have RSVP'd. I look forward to seeing everybody there for a good celebration. And so with that, I want to get everybody back 8 minutes of your day. And so we will now stand adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
My boss is